It's time for the Your Personal Bank Show with Ferenc Toth. In an era of chaos, confusion, and craziness, Ferenc is a voice for common sense. As a financial literacy educator, speaker, and entrepreneur, Ferenc cuts through the noise to help us understand how current events affect our money, economy, and our freedom. Now, here's Ferenc Toth.
Welcome to the Your Personal Bank Show, and today we have one of our most favorite guests, again, back with us, John Burley. John, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's so great to be here again.
That's awesome. So one of the things, and since we got a lot of new listeners, I probably should go back a bit and just share a little bit about who you are. John is probably, I like to say, probably one of the most famous people you don't know. So he's my real estate mentor. He knows more about real estate than anybody I know, and that's saying something because I've met a lot of folks over the last decade. I've spoken to many investor groups, including real estate investor groups all around the country. Of course, been doing this radio show now for roughly 4 years.
Wow, 4 years. This is fantastic.
And it's awesome. So, John, just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started in real estate, where you come from, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I started quite a while ago. I started back in the late 70s, early 80s. I went to a couple real estate seminars. I guess you could say I drank the Kool-Aid.
Okay.
It was green Kool-Aid, though. I actually wanted the red, which I figured out later. And, I was doing real estate part-time while doing what I did. I come from the world of Wall Street. So I look at real estate foundationally and fundamentally different than anybody I've ever seen in the business. When I learned it was all about, how do you do it no money down? How do you do it without credit? How do you do all that stuff, which was kind of hard to do it that way. We formed in 1989 private equity company. Here in the Phoenix, Arizona area. We raised over $600 million over the years, and we've done thousands and thousands of transactions. And we're not like a TV show people. We're like real world. So most of properties we own for like 10 to 25 years, just long-term cash flow. And the thing I like best about our model is we provide owner financing for families.
And one thing I want to say, I hate to interrupt you, but what John just said, yeah, he is for real. I've been to his office. I know John. I've known him for several years now. We've worked together. Heck, we were even on a bank board for a while together.
We've been around a long time.
And a lot of my clients have worked with John for many times decades even.
Yes.
And one of the things I always like to tell people is, when you work with me and when I'm looking at your tax returns and your financial statements, it's really hard to lie to me.
Yeah, it's same thing. Coming from that Wall Street side, clients I work with, in the private equity business, it's 5 years of tax returns, business, personal, all the financials. I mean, you're real or you're not. There's not a lot.
Totally.
Not hiding it.
So one thing I want to say again, because we have so many listeners on new stations, and of course, welcome to the show. One thing I'll just put a little plug in here. If you miss this or any of the previously recorded shows, I'm going to encourage you to go to yourpersonalbank.com. Because you can listen to this interview or any of the previously recorded shows there. Again, it's yourpersonalbank.com. But sorry about interrupting you, John. Go ahead and keep going with where you come from, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm just excited to be here. We, just a very, very, very high-end real estate practitioner. Thousands and thousands of transactions, and then we teach the private equity model. We do 4 events a year, just kind of each quarter we have an event, and super excited to be here. And I want to just huge congrats out to you, and for those of you that are listening to Ferenc for the first time, wow, you're blessed, because this guy is just a fountain of information, just so much knowledge, so much wealth for you guys. So really enjoy the show. I know some of you are just literally going to be listening to it for the first time now.
Well, thank you, John. And I didn't pay him to say that, by the way. Anyway, John, you did mention, keep going. You have an event coming up.
Yeah, so April 15th, 17th, and April 21st to 23rd is our spring training event. You can go to johnburley.com, BURLEY.com to get more information. And we have another one coming in July. They're every quarter. And just teaching people really what's going on out there. I think, Warren Buffett, who everybody watching and listening on the show right now, we all admire Mr. Buffett. And Warren Buffett is quoted with having said thousands of things, most of which he never said. This one he actually said. And the first one, this would kind of describe late 19, but really 20, 21, early 22. When others are greedy, be fearful.
Right.
And I saw a lot of people make a lot of mistakes and overpay for a lot of things during that era. It just caught in the hype, it'll never go down. And obviously that's when it's going to go down. But the most important one, the one that all of us here in 2023 really want to heed, when others are fearful, be greedy. So, now is the exact time when we should be looking at investing when everybody doesn't want to, because things are cheap. They're on sale. But we've got to learn how to position ourselves. You know, the real estate side, it's a little bit complicated. I mean, we're in a recession. I'm sorry if that's breaking news for anybody listening. It shouldn't be, but
Well, if they've been listening to the show, it's not
breaking news.
not breaking news.
To the federal government, that would be breaking news. But to
Right.
all of us who go to a grocery store and eat out or buy gas, we're in a recession.
Right.
And that again makes up more opportunities that are out there. And so we can talk about as much as you want about how to position ourselves to take advantage of what's going on. Rising interest rates, it's a double-edged sword. It's good and bad. It's
Right.
bad because you pay a little bit more for money, but it's also good because you pay way less for the assets.
Right.
So we're able, you know, across the country, we're able to buy houses now for much cheaper. And I'm talking 25 to 40% less than we did in early 22.
Okay.
So that's not the market, but the deals are out there within the market.
Right. I would assume with the economy softening, like you said, the economy slowing down, recession, whatever, obviously more deals are becoming available, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
From just, you know, offering less than what they're asking, and the asking prices have come down, to literally getting in there and doing some great negotiations, which is what we do and what we teach. We're also right now doing a lot of plays with existing financing. So a lot of what we'll do and for example, so instead of going and getting a new loan
Right.
at 6.5%, 7%, whatever the rate is, in many cases right now, and this is even on the multiple listing service, on MLS with realtors. Not many, but the realtors, some of them even know to advertise this.
Okay.
Because like somebody's existing loan at we got one right now at 2.25% that we're doing.
Right.
We're actually just fully assuming, so we're signing for the loans, we're assuming their loan at 2.25%. And all I got to do, so rather than applying for a new bank loan at 6.5%, I'm applying for their existing loan at 2.25% and just assuming the finance. You can't do it with every loan, but you can do it with most loans.
Really?
And so it's just a matter of, you know, putting a down payment, which as an investor, we were going to put 20-25% down anyhow. So it's not
Right.
a big a deal.
Right.
You know, it's not like 2010 where these were just laying on the street and everybody's giving them away, because
Right.
now they have equity, where in like 10 they didn't have equity.
Okay.
So, you know, we've got to come up with a normal amount of money out of pocket for them, you know. And you know, some of you are more rural, it could be literally be $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. If you're in a bigger city, you might be looking at $25,000 to $75,000. But essentially that's just your down payment for their equity, and
Right.
then you get to take control of, legally, ethically, and morally, you've signed for it, you're obligated with the bank, you can take control of those low interest loans. So there's a lot of houses that we're negotiating on right now that are literally 2.25%, 2.5% to 3.5% interest rates. The houses per se, their price is not the best deal,
Right.
but the loan is so wholesale that we're doing it. And you know how I've always looked at it on real estate. I mean, look, in the perfect world, I want a super low price and I want a super low interest rate,
Of course.
and I want super high rents.
Right.
And we get these windows every 50 years. But the reality is, all I need is I need it to be wholesale. I either need a wholesale price or wholesale payment.
Right.
And so, you know, I'm okay with paying close to market value if I can get a 2.5%, 3% loan. Because I'm a long-term player, and so my income stream is going to be so good.
Right.
Now, if I've got to go buy with current rates 6.5-ish, I've got to obviously get a discount. I got to buy it at 75, 80 cents on the dollar, which is just a little bit more work, and that's what we teach people to do.
Sure.
You know, this is just like everything else in life. You don't have to pay retail.
Right.
You know, you can negotiate and work a little bit, and you can get a much better deal. And so that's what we do on the real estate side. It is just teach people the exact model, how we do it, what we do, and then just fire away.
I think it was interesting. One thing you brought up is assuming loans. Now, I was under the assumption, I think like many people, the old assumable loans that used to be around several decades ago were gone, right?
Yes. Well,
So,
the Garn-St. Germain Act in 1983 gave the banks the right to put in the due and sale clause. It's commonly referred to as paragraph 18. I always let people know banks don't call loans. Well, then why did they spend all that money to get legislation passed after the Supreme Court said they couldn't call loans unless there was a mutually agreed upon covenant, which is paragraph 18.
okay.
So in the old days, we literally, it was like $45. You could assume a loan without qualifying.
Right.
Today, it's a full qualifying process.
Okay.
So there's two ways we can do it. I can take control of a property, what's called subject to. We're getting a little technical
Here
for
we
some
are.
of you, but that's okay. And subject to is where I take control of the loan, I record the deed, I buy the property, and I own it. However, the loan is still in the seller's name. They're still responsible for it. And there's some strings attached that a lot of people will or will not do.
Right.
And I understand both sides of that.
Right.
With this, we're buying the house, we're recording the deed, putting it into our LLC, putting down payment into escrow, everything normal.
Mm-hmm.
And now, just instead of going and getting a new bank, many loans out there, they'll allow us to assume it.
Really? Interesting.
And so it's a fully assumable loan. If it's an FHA loan, that they got for 3% down at 2.5%, well, I can come in, pay them whatever equity they have, and literally through the FHA with their approval, have to be fully vetted. So it's a normal loan.
Right.
So not everybody can do that. But if you can sign for loans, wow. Those old interest rates, and we're talking, we're not talking little money now. We're talking 4 points. It's huge difference.
So what you're saying, John, is, the low interest rate environment that we enjoyed for over a decade, and if you didn't take, that seems like it's gone now, you might be able to still take advantage of that.
We can go in the back door.
Right.
It's still there. It's still available. I have to sometimes make a little compromise because I'm not getting to pick and choose the property.
Right.
I'm picking and choosing the loan.
Got it.
However, the loan's so good that the property needs to still check most of the boxes, but not all of them. Mm-hmm. And that was always when I was working with existing financing. There was always a little bit of compromise on the property because the main thing I'm buying the wholesale financing.
Right.
And willing to pay I'm still paying 10, 20% below retail on a normal deal. We get the extraordinary ones, but let's talk about the normal ones.
Right.
I've been doing this a long time. I should have some game-winning grand slam walk-off home runs.
On occasion, sure.
But those aren't every deal.
Right.
Yeah. So just the regular deals is, we're buying these for 80, 90 cents on the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Putting 25 to 75,000 cash up.
Obviously, typically, depending on how much equity is there, right?
Right. Yeah. And they're taking a haircut on their equity, but they're still walking with money.
Right.
And we're able to buy a property that otherwise wouldn't sell.
Right.
Because it's like, wow, there's a bunch of houses at 400. This isn't special at 400.
Right.
It's not even special at 390, but at 390 with a 2.5% loan, it's very, very special.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, because we're long-term players.
Right.
So, if you're short-term guy, this doesn't help. But long-term players, which is a lot of us right now in the game, that's, on a house like that, we're talking about $600-700 a month difference in the monthly payment. So we're talking about going from making $200 or $300 a month cash flow, and you got to cover your expenses with that, to suddenly we're making $1,000 a month cash flow. Just big difference.
Folks, you can see right off the bat, John's a wealth of information. How do they contact you if they want to come to attend this spring training? Yeah,
so we've got free tools and information for you guys at johnburley.com. You can call the office at 623-561-8246. For you social media folks, hop on Instagram. It's at john.burley. You can also do Facebook. We have the John Burley Real Estate Group, really active group there. You can go to YouTube, John Burley Com.
All right. Well, stay tuned in the next segment. We're going to cover a lot. I'm going to ask John a lot more questions, so don't miss it.
Stay tuned for more common sense from Ference. For more information, contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth. Want more information? Contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Now back to the show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. It's Ference, and we have one of our special guests, John Burley, with us. If you missed the first segment, I'm going to tell you, go back to yourpersonalbank.com because, John, you got on a roll on about assuming loans and getting low interest rates even today. And that's just, folks, that information is gold. So again, go to yourpersonalbank.com if you missed the first segment. What I want to ask you now, John, because I don't want to go back to those that were listening. Our last interview we did a few months ago when you were on this show, you mentioned had gotten really busy all of a sudden with a lot of the big Wall Street players that were buying real estate around the country. And then, of course, the economy's changed, interest rates changed, and they were contacting you for advice.
Yeah. So
what's happened with all that?
Yeah. So I'm out of Wall Street.
Right.
And it's one of the reasons why a lot of people really love what we do on the real estate side, because it's not your normal real estate training, which is all kind of based on mythology, quite frankly. It's, how do I buy houses with no money and no credit and essentially no plan?
Right.
And it defies the logic of every business. I mean, we're sitting here in a really nice radio station. They didn't start this with no money. They had the
Right.
idea to do a radio station. They then raised money. They then got a system to monetize it. Advertisers got paid up front and then ran it like a business.
Right.
And so we do the real estate like a real business. And so in 1989, we formed our private equity company. I was actually the first guy out of Wall Street to go into single-family home portfolios. We were the first ones to do it. We've raised over $600 million over the years. We bought thousands and thousands and thousands of properties. And so when they first started coming out in 10, 11, a bunch of them hired us to learn the model because I'm one of them.
Right.
We run it boutique and we run it for profit. They mainly run for fees. And so a lot of their models have been very flawed over the years. Several have come back and paid me more than once to tell them the same thing. And, I love Wall Street. They just throw money at it because it's not their money. It's their
Right.
clients' money.
Right.
And so with a lot of them, I mean, their models were really broken. And they were mixed up on whether they were short-term or long-term. And you really can't do both extraordinarily well. I mean,
Right.
there's a reason why business is specialized. Real estate is a business. You don't try and do every single thing there is within the business. That would be crazy. You
Right.
specialize in what you specialize. I mean, we're on Money Radio. They specialize on money.
Right.
We're not doing fashion shows. This
Right.
isn't a car show. We're focused on what we're doing. And so
Well, they probably got away with it to a degree because easy monetary policy was kind of just like easy. You could throw a dart and probably
everything
succeed.
went up because the
Right.
economy was crazy. We were
Yeah.
at the end. Normal economic
Yeah.
cycle, a
Yeah.
really good end. When the ends are coming, that means it's time to get ready for the downturn because that's what's coming next.
Right.
A lot of them, also have different motives. So, for example, I mean, everybody's like, oh, well, Zillow, they lost $780 million. They don't know what they're doing. It's like, hey, what if Zillow had nothing to do with real estate ever and it was entirely a stock play? Because the reality is their stock, they lost $780 million on paper,
Right.
but the stock went up $20 billion.
Right.
So $780 million overhead for a $20 billion profit. Sign me up every day, all day long.
I would do that.
Yeah, because it wasn't about real estate.
No.
And what many of them are doing now is all they did is take a breath. So if you think they're gone, real estate investors, if you think they're gone, they're not. They're coming back bigger than ever. The reality is institutions own 4% of the residential real estate in America. They don't own all of it. They own just 4%. Most homes are owned by families who
Right.
live in them. The
Right.
next is mom and pop real estate investor. And that would be, you got 5 houses or you got several hundred. That's still mom and pop in today's world.
Right.
And so Wall Street wants a bigger cut of it. They want a bigger share. But what they've got now is many of them are coming back in, but they've talked to guys like me. And so they've got realistic expectations. They're being realistic about their limitations. So, for example, I mean, you know this because you've done real estate investment.
Sure.
You and I and everybody listening, you can crush, destroy, and beat Wall Street all day long on the rate of return. Because you don't have to scale like that. You don't need to come in and buy 10,000 houses in Phoenix in the next quarter.
Right.
You're looking to buy 3 or 4 houses. You can come
Right.
onto the radar. You don't move the market. You don't shift it.
Right.
And they do because they buy too much. And,
Right.
and that was one of their big foundational mistakes of the last 15 years is they didn't get, this isn't like calling and getting 1 million shares of Apple.
Right.
Which moves the market a little bit, but
Right.
doesn't send it crazy. This is, you're coming in and you're buying up a huge chunk of what's available. You are going to raise prices. You are going to affect the local economy because it's a much more
Right.
micro market.
They're like the Federal Reserve coming in and buying $1 trillion of equity
It doesn't scale.
and affects the market.
Yeah, and then they just found out that a lot of their assumptions were really, really wrong. And always the fundamental flaw they have. So 98% of Wall Street firms are for fees.
Right.
They make their money on fees, not earnings. 2%, which is what I was trained in how I run my private equity company, we only get paid on profit. So if I don't make money, I don't get paid. Literally,
Right.
if you're my client and we invest and it breaks even,
Right.
I work for free. If
Right.
it loses, I split the losses.
Right.
If it goes up, I split the profits. We've been doing it 33 years. We go up every year. We make money every year because, well, we have to.
Well, you like to make money.
And I like to make money, but it takes more work.
Sure.
So to do it right, it takes more work, which is why people fly in from all over the country, literally all over the world, every quarter come to one of our events and learn the model. Just the business side, how to raise the money side, how to use and do existing financing and do creative financing side, how to run it like a business, because it's a real business. There's a lot of pieces to it. It's not just, a YouTube video and I'm done.
So if somebody was interested in getting more information from you, how would they contact you?
Yeah, so we've got great free tools for you guys and information at johnburley.com.
Okay.
You can call 623-561-8246. And for you social media guys and gals, on Instagram, john.burley, B-U-R-L-E-Y. You can go Facebook, John Burley Real Estate Group. And then we do at johnburley.com, we do Facebook. Not Facebook rather, but YouTube. And
Right.
so really go there, listen and watch the videos. And if there's anything you want to know, seriously, if you want me to talk about how do you do assumable financing in New York, ask me and I will tell you exactly how we do it.
John works a lot. I mean, like I said in the last segment, John is for real, and a lot like, it's a lot of my listeners. It's funny, they'll say, "You started talking about this subject. You were talking about me, weren't you?" I said, "Yep." In other words, we're in the trenches, working with clients, doing stuff every day, every week, and so a lot of people ask me, "Well, how do I come up with the content or what I'm going to talk about each week?" Frankly, most of the time, it's whatever I was dealing with last week.
It's just like
It's real world.
Yeah, so each one of my events
Right.
is very different because the world's changed in 90 days. It's not the same thing we did 5 years ago at all, kind of even a little.
Or even a year ago.
Or even a year ago. Yeah, market's shifted quite a bit.
And I'm going to encourage folks to stay tuned in the next segment because I think that's the next question I'm going to ask John is obviously in this past year with interest rates, the economy going into recession, all these things, what you did a year ago probably isn't going to work now. And so I'm going to ask John some, what he thinks about real estate, where it's going, where we're at, where it's going, and what someone should do, whether they're thinking about buying, thinking about selling, thinking about investing. So these are the kinds of things I always love to ask of John because, well, he's in the trenches actually doing it. So I'm going to encourage you to stay tuned. And also, if you missed this show or any segment of this show, go to yourpersonalbank.com. You can listen to this or any of the previous recorded shows anytime you want. Again, it's yourpersonalbank.com. Stay tuned to the next segment. Don't miss it.
Stay tuned for more common sense from Ference. For more information, contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth. Want more information? Contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Now back to the show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. It's Ference, and of course we have one of our favorite guests, John Burley, real estate expert. He's my real estate mentor, and if you've been listening at all to this show, you know the guy knows what he's talking about. He's the most knowledgeable person on real estate that I know, and that's why I invite John periodically on this show to bring us up to date. So now I have a question for you, John. Obviously, interest rates, the economy, everything has changed. It's obviously affected real estate. What's happening? Where are we at? Where are we going?
It's a great time to be a real estate investor. So but just home ownership. If you're thinking about buying a home, buy one. You don't need to pay retail, negotiate, get a little better deal, buy it. Get into the game now. Oh, John, what about the interest rates? Well, you know what? Old saying that we had to dust off and remember is we marry the property,
Right.
we date the rate.
Okay.
So if the interest rates go down, we can refinance. If they don't go down, we just simply buy a house that's a little bit more moderately priced that we can afford. But it's a great time right now to get in. See, inventory is still limited.
Right.
Wall Street's taking a deep breath, but they're just starting to come back, and you will see them roll back in end of this year, early 4. Many of them. They're coming back in.
Okay.
They had to restructure how they did their debt because they weren't making the profits they thought they were once the market stabilized. It normalized, really.
Right. We talked a lot about that in the last segment.
Yeah, and so there's lots of good opportunities. So it's a great time to buy a home. Buy one that you can afford with a fixed rate loan. If you want to do a little buy down, do the buy down. Quite frankly, instead of the buy down, I'd like the seller just to drop the price $10,000 or $20,000. Instead of paying a lender, I'd rather keep the money myself and pay a little higher interest for a few years.
Sure.
If you're an investor, we've got lots of opportunities out there. So, we talked about this. It's like, look, I need to buy wholesale, but I need to buy wholesale terms or wholesale price, and I'm a long-term guy, so I can do either. If I'm a
Right.
short-term guy, it's wholesale price only, which is challenging at times.
Sure.
And right now, it's a blend. So we've got record high rents in most of the country. And if you're a renter, I empathize for you. And in some markets like in Phoenix, wow, our rents have been so far below where they should have been for the last 20 years. So it's not that you really never could have afforded that 4-bedroom, 2-bath home. And now that the rent's gone up $1,000 a month, you're in a 2-bedroom apartment. Well, in any other big city in America, you were already in an apartment for 20 years.
Right.
So we've got these really high rents. We've got moderate price and moderate interest. But when we put those together, it all works into a nice cash flow number, a rate of return. And that's what we're out there looking for, is how do we do it? So today it's a combination of I get a discount off the price, I pay the interest rate that's going, and I do higher rents. But with that said, we mentioned it earlier, is one of the things that we're doing right now is many loans out there at 2.5%, 3.5%, you can fully assume them. You can also do it without assuming them. It's called subject to. It's more technical. And this isn't a podcast, guys. Stuff goes wrong on those.
Yeah.
Go and get more information from us before you just jump into those, because stuff goes wrong.
I've heard good and bad about subject twos.
It's mixed.
Yeah.
Mainly it's, how you bought it. Did you dot your I's? Did you cross your T's? And subject to is we take control of the existing loan, but we don't sign for the loan or formally get approved for the loan. So it's not illegal, but we are definitely in violation of the terms and conditions of the previous the seller's loan.
Well, the fact that you can assume, at least on some loans, it sounds to me just a whole lot cleaner.
Oh, the assumption is so much cleaner, because the assumption is all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, everything's
you own
done
it.
above board. You own it, and
Right.
and you own the loan.
Right.
And you're paying the loan. And so right now,
So the seller's out.
seller's gone.
Right.
And there's not a problem 5 years later or whatever. So what we're
Right.
doing on a lot of deals right now is I'm willing to pay at or a little bit below market, which is not wholesale.
Right.
However, they got a 2.5%, 2.25%, 3% loan. That is wholesale.
Right.
My payment's wholesale. I don't care what the price is, because I
Right.
learned a long time ago. It's not the price. It's not the interest rate. It's the rate of return.
Right.
And just because something's cheap or expensive doesn't mean it's good or bad.
Right.
It just is cheap or expensive. But at the end of the day, all we want is our rate of return. How do I get the best rate of return? In a market like today, it's a blend. Moderate price, moderate interest rate, high rents. I put those three together, I can still get my returns that I require.
Right.
People go, what's that? Most of my students starting out, it's a 12 to 15% first year cash on cash for real. Veterans like myself, we're doing 20, 25% minimum, just the cash flow, not the tax benefits, not the growth, not paying the loan down, just the cash flow. We're still right now today doing 20, 25% cash on cash. If you don't know how, or you want to learn how, then ask us.
How do they contact you, John?
We got free tools and information for you at johnburley.com, JOHNBURLEY.com, 623-561-8246.
So I'm going to encourage you to contact John if you have any want more information on this. Of course, if you missed this or any of the previously recorded shows, go to yourpersonalbank.com. You can check it out. Each of the shows have their own topic, and just really encourage you to check it out. I'm also going to encourage you to strongly stay tuned to the next segment, because I'm going to let John go on a riff on, well, pretty much whatever he wants to talk about. So we're going to open up this last segment for John to let him share some of his wisdom. So stay tuned. Don't miss it.
Stay tuned for more common sense from Ference. For more information, contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth. Want more information? Contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Now back to the show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. And of course, this is Ference. We have one of our favorite guests and probably one of our most knowledgeable guests, John Burley. Welcome. Thank you for coming again, John, as always.
Oh, it's awesome to be here. Super excited.
So I just want to say, if you kind of just caught us because you missed the beginning part, John is probably one of the most famous people you've never heard of. He's a best-selling author, real estate expert. This guy's been around, what, 33 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, had thousands and thousands of real estate deals. He educates. John is the most knowledgeable person on real estate I know, and that's why I invite him on this show periodically. And if you miss any of the previous segments of this show, I strongly, strongly encourage you, go to yourpersonalbank.com. You can listen to this or any of the previously recorded shows if you missed anything. But this last segment, I just kind of, as I told John, I'm going to let him talk about what he wants to talk about. So, John, what do you want to share?
You know, I really, really love the market that we're in. There's so much fear in the market. There's so much fear in the stock market. There's so much fear in the real estate markets. Heck, as of a couple of weeks ago, people are now afraid of their banks.
Yep.
They're afraid of everything. Fear means opportunities. You know, we need to safely position ourselves. So I started real estate investing in 1979. I formed my private equity company in 89. So we've been doing this. We're now 34 years with the private equity company. Thousands and thousands of properties, over way over $500 million raised in place long term. And so I've been doing this, and you see these opportunities in these cycles. And right now, there is some really great opportunity. I mean, would I buy all of a town? Oh, heck no. But would I go into the suburbs in nice Class B neighborhoods and buy some of the houses like crazy right now today? You betcha. That's the nice thing about real estate. First of all, insider trading is not only legal, it's fully encouraged, and you should do so. Where stuff that we do in real estate, in securities, they lock you up for.
Right.
And so so we can trade on inside information. We can know that this house gets $400 more a month rent, and these are the reasons why, and the stuff we teach. Mm-hmm. And so what we're really looking at right now is just positioning ourselves. We've been scaling back in a much bigger way. Making offers. So offers are incredible right now. So if you do MLS, and I know a lot of the creative real estate people that act like MLS is like evil and bad and the wrong thing. It's 85 to 90% of all properties. You should figure out how to invest on the MLS. And we do a lot on the multiple listing service. But right now, it's like 1/3 of the properties. It's like, we call it Delusion 101. They think it's February 2022, and they hired a new agent who's inexperienced, who doesn't know what they're doing. So you've got a really bad agent and a really bad seller listing a house, and that's about 1/3 of MLS across the country. Disregard them. Don't worry about them. Don't try and argue with them, talk to them, just because they're a waste of your time. And then you got 1/3. This is what blows people away. About 1/3 of the MLS is still, bam, within 30 days, usually in the first week, the houses are selling right out the gate because it was a veteran agent, 15, 20, 30-year veteran who's been through the different markets, who knows reality, who told the client, no, we got to fix this, and we got to fix this, and we got to price it at a lower price. And they're going right away because they're in the top 10 to 20% condition, and they're fairly priced. Those still sell right away. Interest rates don't affect that. I mean, it's not 1980. We're not at 18% interest. It's 7%, 6.5%. And then and so those, if they make sense, we'll buy those, but those are usually going too fast and for more money. Mm-hmm. The sweet spot right now, Ference, is about 1/3 of the market's got a mediocre agent. The house needs a little lipstick. They're 10 to 20% above what they should be. So instead of trying to sell it for $400, it's at $450, and it needs a paint job. Mm-hmm. Never going to sell today. Would have sold like hotcakes in 22. Sure. Today, it isn't selling. Those ones were coming in, and I'm not kidding. We're offering 20 to 40% right out of the gate below what they're asking. Wow. Right out of the gate. And we're having a lot of acceptances. It's a mediocre agent.
Right.
Who didn't properly explain expectations to their clients, and they're 30, 60, 90 days with 0 offers. Right. And they're asking $440. They should have asked $4, and I come in at $310,000. And in many cases, they just say yes because it's the only offer they've seen.
Right.
And so we're getting really good buys right off the MLS, which is the easy way to do it on that. The other one we talked about that we're doing more and more of is we're buying properties that have low interest assumable loans, and we're buying them primarily for the low interest assumable loan. We got to finance, we got to sign for it, we got a whole thing. This is different than the sub 2. The sub 2 thing is taking over the loan, subject to, but leaving it in Ference's name. And that's kind of like the needle in the haystack, classic real estate education 101. Like almost impossible, nobody does it, but if you do, woohoo! woo.
You might get one or two of those
Yeah,
in
but
your career.
in your career, we've done actually 480 of them, but it's
Yeah.
not the bread and butter.
But you're not the norm.
We're not the norm. Our results are
480 of you for you is like 1%.
Yeah, exactly. But it's still, but that's a small percentage because we've
Right.
done thousands and thousands and thousands of properties.
Right.
We've had thousands of people buy from us on owner financing and cash out, which is really the second part we're doing is that when the remarketing side is we are entirely doing owner finance, getting people who otherwise couldn't own a home to own a home,
Right.
which is just a wonderful thing to do, and it also makes a good profit for everybody involved.
One question came up to mind, I thought, is banks tightening lending standards with everything that's going on. So, like you mentioned, if you wanted to buy a house now, or for personal or real or investing, how hard or easy, difficult is it to get financing these days now? Or what are you seeing?
Financing is still relatively easy for people who are worthy of that financing, and you know the mile's a little discriminatory against middle class. It's a little discriminatory against middle class and upper middle class business owners. That's the no races or any of that stuff. It just
It's
is.
always been that way.
And that's the model.
Right.
One of the things we teach that's very unique is we teach you that, look, real estate takes money and the ability to borrow. Can you do real estate without money and the ability to borrow? Yes. It's really, really hard work.
Right.
So what we do is rather than try and, do the hard way, we teach people when they come to our events, it's like, look, why don't we just teach you how to raise money legally, ethically, and morally, how to properly raise money, how to get paid $10,000 placement fee per property up front. And at our events, and you've met them, people
Sure.
who have done hundreds and hundreds
Some
of
of
property
them are
deals,
my clients.
who made millions of dollars in
Right.
placement fees. But the real money is in the long-term cash flow.
Right.
And so what we do is like, look, you need to address money if you want to do real estate, so get it. And we teach you how to go get it. And then now you've got, if you can't do it yourself, you bring in a capital investor in, and they have a 780 FICO score and an 820 FICO score. They have $500,000, $1 million in the bank for down payments. And then we just have to adjust the numbers. We have to pay a little bit lower price. We have to get a little bit higher monthly to cover the interest rate that it's at today. And we were talking about this earlier. It's like, look, it was never, in the last run up, everybody like, oh, the price is too high, the price is too high. And we were like going, it's not the price, it's the return. And now it's
Right.
like, interest rates are too high, interest rates are too high. It's not the interest rate, it's the return.
Right.
Focus on what you're supposed to.
Right.
And real estate right now today, we have a lot less competition.
I was going to say the amateurs are kind of falling by the wayside.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. So and if you're new,
Yeah.
just come and we'll teach you how to be a pro right away, and we'll get you going.
How do they contact you to get info?
Yeah, we've got free tools and information for you at johnburley.com, B-U-R-L-E-Y, 623-561-8246. We have all kinds of YouTube videos at John Burley, C-O-M. Subscribe there and check them out. If there's any questions you have, let me know. I personally answer them, and I'll get you the content. Instagram, for those of you that are social media, john.burley. And then we have the Facebook, John Burley Real Estate Investing Group.
So yeah, if you're interested in more information, one of the things I get all the time, I used to get it a lot more. Obviously, it's kind of died off, but people interested in investing in real estate. And I always said, look, it's a business like any other business.
Yeah.
Before you commit real money, you need to educate yourself. And so that's why we've recommended a lot of people to your program. You do live events. You've got some coming up. But you also, like I said, go to the YouTube videos, get started, check things out. And one more time, how do they go to say the YouTube video or contact you?
Yeah, YouTube, John Burley, C-O-M. Subscribe, ask questions. And if there's something you want me to cover that I haven't covered, I'll cover it for you. We got free tools for you guys at johnburley.com on the website, information about upcoming events. We do 4 a year. We're major practitioners, so I can't be in 40 different cities a year doing 40 different events because I'm actually running a real private equity real estate investment company for real in the real world.
Well, I'll give you an example. When I went through your course now, believe it or not, I think it was probably 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
It's been a while, my friend.
But, you were talking about a house that you had bought like 4 days prior, and then we went out and looked at it.
Yeah. No, this is real world. I mean,
Yeah.
And we're buying houses right now. We sold
Yeah.
2 houses on owner financing last week. So, I mean, it's a moving ball at all times to target moves.
Would you say you're doing more now than you were, say, a year or so ago, or less?
Oh, absolutely. So,
Okay.
So, like a real business,
Right.
when too many people are doing the same thing at the same time in the same place, that would have been flipping in 2021, 22.
Sure.
We were doing less real estate.
Right.
because there was too many people overpaying. See,
Too
we're-
much competition.
like
Right.
every great investor,
Mm-hmm.
long term,
Right.
we've always been contrarians.
Mm-hmm.
We're going against the grain always. And right now, I mean, I was actually at an event in Hollywood, and there was a lot of real estate people there and a lot of real estate education people. And there's just blood in the streets because a lot of them massively overextended, didn't know what they were doing, thought the appreciation was a skill set, which it's not. It's
Right.
called luck. It's great
Right.
when you get it, but,
Right.
don't plan on it. And so their models were just based on unrealistic growth, which is gone and not going to be back for years.
Much like what we saw in the stock market recently,
It's
right?
same thing.
idea. Yeah.
And it, and so many of them are just now figuring out after a great 4 or 5 year run that, wow, I don't even know what I'm doing.
Mhm.
'Cause you and I have talked about this as old veterans here. It's like, look, if you didn't thrive through the last crash, thrive, not survived,
Right.
thrive through the last crash, anything you say, I'm going to look at skeptically. In a
Right.
skeptical manner, because you don't know what you don't know. It's like
Right.
there's people right now. I mean, they're literally standing on the train tracks, and the train's coming from at full speed, and they're not even acknowledging the train exists.
Right.
It's like, well, it'll come back next month. I mean, it's got to come back, or I'm going to lose money. It's like, no, you already lost money with your current niche. There are things you can do if you'll educate yourself. We can fix this, but I can't bring appreciation back.
Right.
That's Jesus Christ. He
Yeah,
can do that.
Right. I run into all the time, especially I talk to a lot of people in the financial world, right? And
Yeah.
and I say, well, I think one of the problems is you're dealing with an advisor that doesn't know what a down market looks like because they don't have that. They haven't been around long enough.
Right. And as you and I know, I mean, I was one of the few. I mean,
Yeah.
there was in the Phoenix market, which is where our corporate headquarters are, there was about 10 of us that would have had 500 to a couple thousand houses.
Right.
And every one of them but me went under.
Right.
But we didn't refinance all our property. We didn't take the assets out. We left the assets in place. We had great cash flow numbers. The cash flow numbers worked after the downturn. They worked before the downturn because we're very, very conservative by nature. I mean, I always looked at how I was trained, private equity, for-profit company. So if I don't make money, my family doesn't eat.
Right.
So we have to make money every year, and we have every year since 1989. Is my job, my sole job as the founder and CEO is to reduce and mitigate risk. It's
Right.
not to make insane profits.
Right.
It's to
The old fear and greed.
always make money.
Right.
Every time, always.
My business, we had the same experience in 08, 09.
Yes.
Granted, we made some adjustments. We had to. Half of my competitors went out of business. We came out of that stronger than ever.
Right.
And we were almost twice as profitable because a lot of our competitors went by the wayside.
They all go by the wayside because and we're seeing that the real estate agents all the new ones are quitting. Mortgage,
Right.
title, all kinds of people. And this is
Right.
one of the nice things about the downturn. It weeds out the dregs.
Yeah.
Not personal.
Separates the wheat from the chaff.
But it is what it is. The people who weren't very good, they don't have the skill sets, and they're not willing to go learn the skill sets.
One last time, how do they contact you, John, for more info?
Yeah, johnburley.com. And there's free tools for you there and information. You can go to 623-561-8246. Instagram, john.burley. Facebook, John Burley Real Estate Group. And then on YouTube, John Burley, COM. And you can get download videos there and request whatever information you want.
John, thank you again for joining us. That was very informative, as always.
Thank you, my friend.
If you missed any of this part of this show or any of the previously recorded shows, go to yourpersonalbank.com. Again, yourpersonalbank.com. And I'm going to encourage you to listen to this and stay tuned next week because we're going to be back with more great content. And as I always like to finish off all of my shows, as long as it's still on our money, in God we trust.
Amen.
Listen Tuesdays at noon and Saturdays at 1 to the Your Personal Bank Show for more information. Contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. This show is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information. The presenter and guests of this program do not engage in legal, accounting, or tax advice. Professional advice regarding your situation should be sought if required. Some products discussed may have limitations and not be available in all states. Excessive unpaid loans may affect performance. Distributions may become taxable if not managed properly. Replacements may not be suitable for everyone. There may be charges when replacing coverage. Dividend rates and bank line of credit rates may change. For current rates, contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. Again, that's 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com.